think the vast majority of Canadians feel safe in Canada. This means defense and security of our nation, citizens, and interests are rarely discussed, even with the war in Ukraine, foreign interference, and countless other threats. So how do we become so complacent? Listen to Bob Fowler's take on this issue on this NSP Short.
Well, it's a huge dilemma, and one I've thought about really all my life. First of all, mostly from the foreign affairs perspective, and you know, one of the great truisms is, you know, first of all, foreigners don't vote, and secondly, nobody cares about foreign affairs, and very much your question is sort of a subset of that. Nobody cares about security affairs. Nobody cares about, and what's more, the Americans are going to do it anyway. I saw a poll very recently, I'll get this wrong. 35% of Canadians between 18 and 32 believe that we don't need to worry about defense because the Americans are going to do it for us. And the people who most believe in defense are old has-beens like me and my generation. So the extent of the feeling you're talking about is very deep in our country. Part of it is education, and part of it, I think, is leadership. I am appalled by how little high school kids know about the world and know about Canada in the world and what Canada has done and could do and be. They're simply not interested. In terms of security, they are bedeviled by the reality that troubled me all my life, and very particularly over 9 years in defense, is that we, 40 million people, cannot defend 10 million square kilometers of this land. It's not possible. Other people will claim otherwise, perhaps. I've not met them. Sorry, there is. Let me be very contentious. There would be a way, and that's the Israeli option, as we would acquire nuclear weapons and say anybody who messes with us gets nuked. Is that likely? Not even remote. Mm-hmm. But that, at least in the abstract, that would be a way of claiming that we could defend our interests and our territory effectively. But if we're doing it actually with vehicles and planes and boats, we can't do it. And it's not going to be half a dozen largely unarmed Arctic patrol vessels, and it's not going to be F-35s with a range less even than an F-18 and a weapons load smaller. And it's not going to be with 65-ton main battle tank. Mm-hmm. So what do we do? I mean, how do we posture ourselves? So I think it's in the face of that, and the fact that we are living side by each with this longest undefended border with the most armed up nation in the world. And the combination of those two realities causes people to throw up their hands and say, why bother? Not me. It drives me crazy. Particularly if you look at what I will consider our rather glorious military history. Even in detail, it wasn't always that glorious. But we learned, sometimes at great cost, but we learned and we got better at it, and then we forgot. So we would have to learn again, and the big issue is, would we have the time to learn again? Would we have the equipment in a crisis? I mean, I think we discussed that. The most fascinating issue for me of the Russian invasion of Ukraine is the extent to which the Ukrainians are fighting well, coupled with, or the Russians are fighting badly, coupled with the desperate need of materiel on the part of the Ukrainians and the almost complete lack of interest in tooling up to produce more of that equipment. If not for them, for us. I mean, if we are really worried that it could extend into Poland or where else, how ready are we to back up Article 5? If the Ukrainians are spending more 155 shells in a month than America produces in a year, how likely are we going to be able to deter a major Russian attack against NATO? And that worries me enormously. In other words, that is something we could do. I mean, we Canadians could do, the West could do, NATO could do, is simply retool. But we're not doing that.